Far Cry 3 was lightning in a bottle, a rare moment when everything just clicked. It wasn't just another open-world shooter. It was a cultural moment, a defining game of a generation, and arguably the last time Ubisoft truly took risks in storytelling, gameplay, and world-building. And ever since then, they've been chasing its shadow, never quite capturing what made it so special. Let's rewind to 2012. The FPS genre was dominated by gritty military shooters and formulaic campaigns. Then along came Far Cry 3, throwing us onto a lush, violent, and chaotic tropical island with no roadmap. You weren't a soldier. You were Jason Brody, a spoiled, rich thrill-seeker thrown into the worst possible situation. Watching Jason evolve from a scared tourist into a hardened killer was deeply unsettling and brilliant. It blurred the line between survival and savagery. You weren't just progressing, you were descending into madness. But it wasn't just Jason that made the game unforgettable. It was Vaas Montenegro. Played masterfully by Michael Mando, Vaas wasn't just a villain. He was a performance, a philosophy, a psychological breakdown wrapped in charisma and chaos. His infamous definition of insanity, monologue, is still quoted over a decade later. He wasn't just evil, he was unpredictably human. And for once, a video game villain stole the spotlight more than the protagonist. The world of Rook Island felt alive. You didn't just play missions. You explored, you hunted, you were hunted. Every inch of the island was handcrafted with danger, beauty, and mystery. Whether it was freeing an outpost, gliding through the skies with a wingsuit, or quietly stalking a tiger through the jungle, Far Cry 3 gave players total agency. There was structure, but you were free to rebel against it. And let's talk tone. Far Cry 3's atmosphere was thick with dread and wonder. A paradise poisoned by violence and insanity. It had this strange, psychedelic energy, the drug-induced hallucination missions, the tribal tattoos, the descent into warrior culture. It wasn't subtle, but it was immersive. It dared to be weird, to be uncomfortable. Ubisoft embraced madness, and it paid off. So what happened? Far Cry 4 came out, and, while technically better in some aspects, bigger world, more refined mechanics, it lacked soul. Pagan Min was stylish, but shallow. The game felt more like a reskin than a revolution. It was Far Cry 3, but safer, more calculated. Then came Far Cry 5, which tried to tap into American cult hysteria, a promising premise, but it pulled its punches. Joseph Seed could have been an iconic antagonist, but the game refused to take a stand. It wanted to say something about fanaticism, but got scared halfway through and resorted to vague, politically correct ambiguity. The game looked gorgeous and played fine, but emotionally, it was hollow. Far Cry New Dawn, a forgettable experiment. Far Cry 6, a step in the right direction with Giancarlo Esposito as the villain, but again, underutilized. The series became bloated with mechanics, side content, and RPG elements, but lost the raw narrative drive and bold vision that made Far Cry 3 iconic. So why can't Ubisoft recreate that magic? Because they stopped taking narrative risks. They started designing games by committee, prioritizing engagement metrics over emotional impact. Their open worlds grew in size, but shrank in personality. Instead of crafting compelling stories, they focused on content sprawl, live service elements, and superficial upgrades. Ubisoft became obsessed with systems and forgot about storytelling. Far Cry 3 was made during a time when games were allowed to be messy and personal. It had vision, it had edge. It felt like someone's wild idea that somehow got approved. Today's Far Cry games feel like products, polished, safe, and ultimately forgettable. And it's not just Far Cry. It's Ubisoft as a whole. From Assassin's Creed to Ghost Recon, they've leaned heavily into checklist gameplay. The magic is in the margins, in the details, in the characters, in the unexpected. Far Cry 3 had that. It took you to a dark place and made you feel something. It made you question the role you were playing. It was self-aware before it was trendy. That kind of design can't be churned out. It has to come from passion. In many ways, Far Cry 3 was the last rebellious cry from a studio that still had something to prove. Now, Ubisoft feels like a corporation churning out sequels with algorithmic precision. But lightning doesn't strike twice when you're too afraid to stand in the storm. Far Cry 3 isn't just the best Far Cry game. It's a reminder of what happens when game developers are allowed to go mad, to push boundaries, to make players uncomfortable, and in doing so, unforgettable. And until Ubisoft finds the courage to embrace chaos again, Far Cry 3 will remain their masterpiece and a haunting shadow over everything that came after. So what do you think? Was Far Cry 3 the last truly great Far Cry game? Or do you think one of the newer titles came close? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, or just want to reminisce about your wildest moments on Rook Island. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give the video a like. It really helps push it out to more people who love gaming as much as we do. Don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this, breakdowns, retrospectives, and all things gaming. And hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay critical, and stay legendary. I'll see you in the next one.